So Power This was our first album proper with Tom on the drums, and we did set about working on what became Goodnight to Everyone fairly immediately afterward. But like I say, it was all a matter of, we had a lot of momentum up front, and then it was very much as though we then had a reputation to uphold, but we were starting from scratch once we started into Power This. So since then, we've tried to stay current, but also our lives have evolved, and it's just not the same when you're not 22 and you can kind of justify blowing off more responsibilities just to be a rock and roller.
Right.
You just try to keep it between the lines a little bit more, and that's different things for all of us. Two of the members of the band, Garrick and Bryce, both have children, and we've all maintained day jobs throughout the entire career of the band. Although every year we take another stab at, can we escape the jobs, and we're still thinking about that this year. So.
Yeah. Well, you have a great release to support. So.
Oh, thank you. Well, I can tell you the thing I'm the most proud of with that record is that the band began largely as a vehicle for my songs, but I always wanted the band to be a more or less democratic creative outing. And Suckers is one of the most realized across-the-board creative efforts from the whole band to date. Like, individuals just continue to get more invested in the final product. Not that we haven't always been invested, but this
just different level.
I mean, a huge thing, for example, is that Dead End Girl is Tom's first song for the band and his first lead vocal on one of our records, and we always knew he had it in him, so it's exciting to have him doing that.
Right. So, Rock and Roll Suicide, I read that Little Steven said that was the best song in the world that week.
That's a nice moment.
I bet.
Yeah, I remember, well, a couple things. One, the first time that I actually heard it live on the air, it actually blew me away. The significance of it was entirely too exciting. I was kind of emotionally taken aback. And I got a phone call from our drummer, Tom, who was trying to make it a bit more about me because it happened to be my song. But he was saying, "You wrote the coolest song in the world, Larry Kennedy. You did that." And I was like overwhelmed by the thought of it. I have a specific memory of being a kid about maybe 8 or 9 or 10, and I had my first Muppet Show drum set, which I originally wanted to play the drums. And I remember being at that drum kit with a tape recorder on in the background and trying my best to drum along with Born to Run.
Right.
So so Little Steven has loomed over my existence since long before I even held a guitar even, because I wasn't even on that instrument. And we were trying to get his attention with our music for about 8 years.
Yeah.
So when he finally, I mean, I just was hoping we could get our music on his channel or on his show, but the idea that he would choose a song as the coolest song in the world, that was beyond the hopes. That was, I mean, that's just a nice thing to have. Yeah. I would dare say, as long as I live, even if I never make a real proper living playing music, that would be pretty hard to feel that bad about, because I got the attention of people whom I respect.
Right.
It's wonderful that we have people who like our music, and I've enjoyed playing music for years, but it's a crazy thing to have somebody like Little Steven point you out and say, "Hey, they're good. You should pay attention to them." We would have been happy to work with Pop Detective even if they weren't having some success with Little Steven, but yeah, that turned out to be a really good marriage, and now we're preparing to do a tour with other bands from the Pop Detective label, all of whom happen to be played on Little Steven's show. So we're working together to try to use this good fortune to our collective advantage.
Are there any internet tools that you use for booking gigs or anything to make being in a band easier?
Well, I'll go as far as to even say that since I have been in a band since my teens, that I can definitely remember the days when word of mouth and flyers were your best bet. And to imagine that we live in a world now where you can record a song and then make it immediately available to anybody in the world via the internet and get their feedback just makes it an entirely different experience. I wonder if a lot of artists realize that the platform that they have is actually wider than it's ever been. The difference is that there is no longer a structure by which you might conceivably get a huge chunk of money poured in your lap before you do any work and then have to pay it all back.
Right.
And not to be overly cynical about the music biz, but that's really what it was. And to some extent it still is. If you get a record deal, you're given a lifestyle and a budget, and then it's recoupable to the record company, so you really got to become successful to ever make a dime, which is really no different than what we're doing,
Right.
except that we don't have the middlemen. So, whether we ever make a lot of money doing this or not has become long become irrelevant because of how much we enjoy it.
Right.
It would be great, but the reality is, I mentioned I was previously an art student. Van Gogh was not appreciated during his lifetime, and I cannot say that about what we do.